So what we're talking about today is internet lead capture and conversion. So we'll be talking about your website, Facebook ads, whatever you're doing to find people over the internet, capture their information, and then convert them to a buyer or seller client. So that's where we're going. What we're doing today. My name is Kirsten Sitnick. I've been with Cultivate Leads about 2 years, a little over 2 years, and I'm a labs advisor, which is kind of long and drawn out, but basically I'm working on sort of the back end of Command. I get to help decide, make suggestions for Command and do some testing of the software that's not quite out yet. That's been really fun. And I teach a lot of the Command classes here, especially on things like Facebook ads. That's kind of my favorite one to teach. So that's what we're talking about today. You should have gotten an email that has in it the student guide that goes with that. So if you didn't get that, check your email. You don't need it for today, but it could be helpful to see later. Here we go. So again, what we're talking about today is just kind of the main idea, the perspective on internet lead capture. What I'm finding with it is internet lead captures. We're working with lots and lots and lots, a slew of leads, and then just converting all of those leads down to some customers. And that's what we'll be working with today. You probably know everybody who's a buyer or seller is doing things themselves on the internet. People are, people are using the internet themselves to find buyers. They're finding to find information. If they're buyers, they're looking for homes that are listed. They're finding out what the prices are. They're seeing what their mortgage payment might be. They're doing all that stuff themselves online. Same thing with sellers. They're doing all that online. They're looking for homes online. They're seeing what their house might sell for. And what we want to do is get ourselves involved in that process, have online interactions with those people in order to capture those leads, connect with them, cultivate that into an actual client, and then close.
Well, I can get into the Zoom room and manage that for you.
I would love that. Thank you.
Give me 1 moment.
Sure.
I pull it up right now.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Because I'm worried I'm going to miss somebody.
No worries. I can figure that out.
All right. And kind of the big thing about it is that an online lead is going to an online lead really needs to be as our personal connection that goes with that, but it doesn't start out that way. And so that we'll be talking about today. All right, so first of all, when is a lead a lead? We start off with what's called a hit. So in other words, let's say that I have a home that I have a listing for, and I get a hit. Somebody inquires about it because of my Facebook ad. That's just a hit. I have no communication with them yet at all. They've just sort of expressed some interest. When they view it, that's a hit. When they actually
Keep going. I'm just gonna.
Okay, yeah, sure. When they actually ask me for some information, at that point, that's an inquiry. And then when I'm conversing with them back and forth, and I'm finding out that they are, in fact, actually a buyer, and that they are at some point maybe ready to buy in the next, year or something like that, then at that point, it's a lead. You might get a lot of leads. If you're doing a lot of, whether it's, I do a lot of Facebook ads, but other people do blog posts, or they will go on LinkedIn or their Instagram or Twitter, or, whatever you're doing, you'll get a lot of those, and you need a lot of them to actually get some people who want to do business. And I like this quote here. A lead is someone who is able, ready, and willing to do business now. That's going to be just a fraction of the people that you interact with online. And so the only way to make this work is to have a really good system for continuing to communicate and follow up with those leads so that eventually they become a buyer or seller for you. So that's kind of what we want to work on today. I'm having trouble with just move forward to the next slide. It might have been
because I clicked off of the actual slide. You might be good now.
Okay.
So yeah, that might be my fault.
Okay.
Sorry about
Oh,
that.
no worries. All right. So who uses the internet? It says 90% of home buyers search online. I mean, it seems like it's everybody to me. This is 90% sounds low, but let's go with that statistic. 89% use a mobile device to search online. That's really interesting, you know, that everybody's doing it. But most of them are still using an agent. And I've seen that actually to be true just in my own, experience with this. I took a look at my stats today. I had to write them down. So my main way that I've been connecting with people online is through Facebook ads. That's what I've been doing most. Other people do different things. That's been like my choice for how I'm doing the connection. So, in the past year and a half, I've run about 40 Facebook ads. So that's a pretty good number of Facebook ads. Okay.
Yeah.
Out of that, I got about 1,400 leads, that came through that. The number of those that I'm actually connected with is much smaller. First of all, a lot of those were duplicates. So what'll happen is if I run a Facebook ad and then somebody is interested in that house, a month later, I might run a Facebook ad on a different house and that same person clicks through. So that 1,400 leads has a lot of duplicates. There's a lot of people who don't want to give up their contact info or put in fake info or whatever. When you contact them, they definitely do not want to be contacted. So out of that 1,400, I'm still communicating with about 450 of them. So it's much, much smaller, by the time you actually get to who you're, connecting with. So that's that's our challenge, is to stay in connection with those people so that they eventually turn into, a buyer or a seller. Internet and real estate, a great website may bring you a lot of visitors, but it takes more than a great website to get a customer. So you need to be able to maintain their interest. People who search you online have no loyalty to you at all, and they're searching a lot of websites. So unless what you have is giving them something that they want, they're just moving on to somebody else. That's really what happens. But if you have a system in place to capture them, capture their contact info, and then continue to connect with them, then you can eventually get them to be a customer or a client. The system that we use a lot here in Keller Williams is Command. Probably most people who are in here are using Command. Some people use a different way of doing it, but Command is really great for it because the way I do it is I have smart plans that will automatically continue to text my people, email them, over and over, send me a reminder to give them a phone call. So the smart plans are doing all of that lifting for me, and then I'm not doing it at all until it says, hey, Kirsten, call this person, and then I call them, And by doing it that way, over time, long term, trying to connect with that person, eventually you have a conversation and you're connecting with them. And then eventually you're converting them into a buyer or seller client. And that's kind of how it works. They're looking for a trusted person. So that's where, your personality comes in. When you can finally reach them on the phone is making sure that they see that you are knowledgeable and that you're helpful and that, you know what they're talking about. And it's a numbers game based on volume. Hey, come on in. Okay, so sellers on the internet. All right, so we already talked about this a little bit. So they're analyzing and researching long before they're ready to sell. Long before, they're going on the internet, you're using Zillow probably, Redfin, all those other websites to try to figure out what the value of their home is worth. They're looking at comparables. Like I said before, they have no loyalty at all at that point. Anything they come across online, they're just trying to find out what their value is, what the value of their home is, and they want to understand what the selling process is. Maybe they have some concerns, like what we're hearing right now. Concern is, well, if I sell my house, how am I going to find something to buy, right? That's the main one I'm hearing. I don't know, are you hearing any other things besides that? Do we have any other ones? I'm hearing that a lot, right? So maybe they have a concern about that. Maybe they have a concern about you know, what work do I need to do on my house before I can sell it? Can I sell it as is? Or do I need to do, you know, X, Y, and Z? What are the things I have to do first? Maybe they're concerned about not wanting people in their house. I heard that a lot during COVID. You know, it's getting a little bit easier now. I don't hear that concern as much, but maybe they have a concern about that. You know, so they're in the beginning, they're searching online, and we want to be able to connect with them. So some ways we might want to connect with them is offering them home value, offering them, you know, some of this information that they want so that we can get their information. Buyers start really early in their timeline. Funny story. Okay, so just last week, I'm sitting, like, you probably all have this, where you have 2 appointments and you give yourself a little bit of buffer in between them. And then your second one, you're showing up really early because you didn't need your whole buffer, right? Happens all the time. So I'm in my car and I've got like a good 20, 25 minutes to kill. And then my buyer calls me and she's running late. So I've got more than a half hour there and I'm already at the property, you know, just waiting. So do you have the command app downloaded yet? Did they have it downloaded already?
How is it working?
Okay, well, let me talk to you afterward. I will talk, okay, because the command app is, if you don't have it, you must have it. It's so awesome because I can open up my command app and then I've got my tasks there that I have to do. And a lot of them are call tasks, like who do I need to call? So I can just click a button and say, don't show me all the other stuff, just show me the people I need to call. Okay, so I'm here at this appointment. I've got a half hour to kill. I open up the command app, click my call button, and I've got a lot of follow-up calls from all these. I told you I've been running Facebook leads for the past year and a half. So, and all of those people are on follow-up smart plans where it's texting them, it's emailing them, and then it's giving me a reminder to call them. So I have some of those kind of reminders to call people. So I don't actually look at the record first, that contact, and see all of the past history. When I'm in that situation, I just call. I just start calling. And the reason is with those internet leads, if you run a lot of those, you know that most of them don't answer their phone. You know, so you do a lot of calling without people answering it. Anyway, this lady answers the phone. We have a great conversation. She said, you know, I've been looking for a long time, but I really wasn't ready to do the work. But now I'm finally ready to start buying. So we had a really long conversation. At the end, she's thanking me for reaching out to her. We set up, you know, I had some follow-up to do with her when I got back to my computer, give her some lenders, all that kind of stuff. So then later I go and look at my contact card for her, which I hadn't done before I called her. And it turned out, she responded to my Facebook ad like 14 months ago. So that's how long I've been texting and emailing her, 14 months. I had called her multiple times and she'd never picked up the phone, except for once where as soon as I started talking, she hung up on me. That was it. That was my entire past, you know, and she didn't remember at all that she had hung up on me. She didn't, you know, nothing, not at all. But I guess, you know, she's been seeing my face in all those emails this whole time. She's been getting texts from me this whole time. And she answered the phone. And now it's kind of moved to the next stage, but that took 14 months before that happened. Wow. I know, it's a long time. And I feel like my point with all this is that we give up too early, right? So if you get a Facebook lead and you call them and they don't ever pick up their phone, and then you just stop calling them, like you might be walking away from money at that point because that person just isn't ready yet. You know, so I've seen things that say, so started early in their time. I've seen 6 months. My experience is more like 12 months to 18 months sometimes is how far out some of these people are in their searching. They're glancing around houses. They're thinking, sometime I'd like to buy a house when they see my Facebook ad and they click on it. But it's very, very early. And so that's why that long-term follow-up is so super important, and doing it using smart plans and command is the most painless way to do it, you know, because really, like, so she's probably gonna, you know, she's not a buyer yet. I don't have a buyer agreement with her yet, but I have a good relationship with her and it's looking good, you know. but you know, I didn't really have to do anything. I made a couple calls, but really it's been command doing that in the background the whole time that connected with her. and buyers start very early. They do everything. They're looking on the internet to look for homes they like. They're looking at what prices are. Right now, they're probably pretty frustrated, like, because they've heard about what's happening and how hard it is for buyers right now. But then when they get ready, then they're ready. They get to a certain point, and then they're ready to talk to a lender and get pre-approved and kind of go through that process. I find that a lot of times they really don't have any idea. If they're a first-time homeowner, they really don't know about how much they need for a down payment and closing costs and lenders and all that. So there's a real opportunity for education there that can be really helpful. They go quickly from website to website. They're searching all of them with no loyalty to anybody. So if no matter how great your website is, you've got to connect with them in order to keep them. And they are going to search online instead of going to open houses. They will come to open houses too, but people are very comfortable searching online. You've probably experienced that as well. They want to know the process, and they want to have an agent who really knows their stuff. One thing I'll add to that is they're very rarely already pre-approved. Very rarely. Most of the time, they're so early in the process, they have not talked to the lender yet, and they're scared to do so. And they are kind of, intimidated to do so, I guess is a good word for it. So, that's where you're coming in. And if you can get in that process early enough, then you're the one who's going to be able to represent them, because it's so early in the process, that's where your chance is. I saw a statistic somewhere, I can't remember the exact number, so don't quote me on it, but it's something like every buyer, that lead of buyer is sold like 10 times or something like that. Like Zillow's selling the lead, all these other companies that sell leads sell it over and over and over again because that person's doing so much internet searching. And so you've got a lot of competition. We have to make it easy. So this is an outdated slide because it has E-edge in there instead of command. But what we're going to do is use command. Like, that's our main thing that we're going to do to use to connect to them. It's going to be super easy, super quick, and that's the way to do it. But use technology to automate your responses to them so that you are not doing it yourself. If you had to remember to text and email them and call them on your own, you would drop that lead, and you probably wouldn't do it, especially like I gave you those stats. I did about 40-ish Facebook ads. I got 1,400 leads from that. And now I'm communicating still with 450 of them. Like, I can't text 1,400 people. I can't remember to do that, You need even 450. I can't remember to do that, especially when it's going to take a year before they're ready to buy. I have to use technology to do it for me. You have, as part of command, a website that comes with that, you can set it up really easily yourself, and you can modify it yourself. And it already has in there the ability to show homes. Okay, so when somebody is on your website, if they're looking for homes, that's already there for you. And what's really cool is that if you either get them to use the command app, not the command app, the Keller Williams app, if you get them to download that app, or if you use saved searches, or if you use either the biweekly or the monthly neighborhood nurture, if you're sending them those things and they are clicking on homes using one of those things, you'll see it on their contact card, which is really nice. So sometimes I'll look at my contacts and I can see, oh, they got the monthly neighborhood nurture email and they've been clicking through. They've been viewing all these other homes for sale. Maybe that seller is getting ready to sell. Maybe they're thinking about it because they're doing so many searches. So you get to see all that, which is great. So you want your website to let them do that. You want them to give information about the process because they don't always understand it, and communicate with them. I would add to this, though, that I feel like, for me anyway, it's not been only my website. A lot of it has been my email and text communication that has really helped to cultivate those leads. I had one say to me, I had a seller say to me last week that called me, oh, you've been communicating me so much. I just wanted to ask you a question about this. And then he had a question for me. It was somebody I had never spoken to before. I don't remember exactly where I got his info off the top of my head. Somehow I had his information. And so I've been emailing him, texting him this whole time. And then when he had a question, he just called me out of the blue because I've been reaching out to him so often, you know. So use it, you know, you already have it. All right, so this is kind of what we've been talking about is we're going to capture interested people, capture their information, connect with them on a personal level. That's your SMART plan, to connect with them through text, email, and calls, to connect with them, cultivate that into a lead, and then convert it into a client, close for that appointment. All right, I love this slide here. This capture, connect, cultivate. This funnel is kind of showing you that what we talked about is that I've got a slew of online leads, right? Lots and lots and lots of them. Okay, so the example I gave you, I ran 40 Facebook ads. I got 1,400 leads out of it. So that's my big number of how many I've captured. And then as I'm connecting with them, some of them drop off, right? Some of them, I realize they gave me a fake phone number and a fake email. Or maybe I start trying to connect with them and they opt out of all of my texts and emails. And so I archive them, you know, so they don't want any of it. You know, or I call them and they already have a real estate agent. They were just, you know, looking around on the website and saw it, you know, or they have no interest in selling. They just thought my pictures were pretty or whatever it is, you know, it's sort of, as I'm connecting, I'm getting fewer and fewer. And I'm really trying to target who are the people who are really highly motivated, who actually want to buy or sell, because that's who I want to be talking to. And then I'm cultivating those leads over time, and then eventually converting them to a buyer or seller client. I said I had 40 Facebook ads, 1,400 leads. Now I'm communicating with about 450 of those. Out of that 450, about 15 of them are in my pipeline. So that's what my personal numbers were, you know, so that's pretty close to 1% of my, you know, when you get the big slew of leads, only about 1% of them, for me anyway, has so far turned into something where I think I'm going to actually transact business, you know. Now maybe it'll go up higher. I said I've been doing it about 1.5 years, and some of these have been pretty recent. So I don't know, maybe, you know, some more of them will, but that, you know, it's big numbers. But what's really interesting about that is this is showing, this triangle right here is showing you how much of that can be done through automation. So in the beginning, when you're in that capture stage, most of that is automation. You're not doing it yourself. You're making a SMART plan that gives your whole follow-up for the whole, however long you're going to communicate with them. Doing that at one time, and then slowly, as you get closer and closer to converting that lead into a client, automation is less and less important. Okay, the automation is doing all of the heavy lifting at the beginning. At the end, it's your personal touch. You know, it's you giving your advice, your personality. This is the inverse. Here's how much time is spent with them. Right in the beginning, I'm spending very little time with that person that just flew in on the internet. But then by the end, by the time I'm converting them, it's all me. It's all, you know, it's me personally texting them or me calling them on the phone or emailing or whatever it happens to be. So that, you know, with the SMART plans, while I'm thinking about it. So there's a whole SMART plans class. So we're not going to get into that whole thing today. But what I'm personally doing is for each Facebook ad, I use a SMART plan that talks about that property. And next time I do the Facebook class, I'm happy to share my SMART plan that I use with you. Actually, I have it uploaded in the library too. And then there's a SMART plan that I just took from the library that I like. Her name is Kimber, who wrote it. And I would highly recommend downloading her SMART plan. It's a buyer lead connecting SMART plan, and it lasts like 470 days or something like that. Like, so it's a really long-term connect with this lead SMART plan. And I've been using it maybe a month, and you know, she's done a beautiful job writing it. The text she's sending out, I love the text. I like the email, like everything's great about it. And I think it's been working for me. So if you have a chance, download that plan. If you search on Kimber Walton, you'll see all of her smart plans, and she has a buyer one that's 3 smart plans long. That's 400 and some days. It's really good. But don't forget, if you're running any of those kinds of things, Facebook ads or just anything that you're dealing with buyers, that's a great way to connect with them. Make offer for immediate response. So this is interesting. So some of the ways that that you can keep someone coming back to you, keep someone coming back to your website, keep someone back to, whatever your hub is to have information that they can't easily get elsewhere. So if your source is giving them what they need, they'll keep coming back to you. So these are some suggestions of things that you might want to put on your website or on your Facebook page or wherever you're using as your hub. Okay, so a best buy list. So maybe I look through, the available homes right now. I have a list. Here's some best buys that are coming up. Maybe kind of hard right now with not so many houses on the market, but we'll be there soon. Instant notification of homes for sale. Sign up now and I'll send you you'll get an email right away as soon as the home's for sale. You can set that right up in command that it will email them. Okay, using a safe search. So you're not doing it every time. You're getting them to give you your email address, and then it's going to automatically do it. Find out what your home is worth. So see more about a property. So when I have a listing, I'll make a standalone page for that property within command, and it'll be on my website. It's a landing page. And then I can advertise using that landing page so people can see that house, all the pictures, all the description, whatever I have about that house right there on that landing page. Any other kind of thing that you can think of. A lot of people write things that have some kind of number. 5 tips for home buyers, 34 mistakes sellers make. Whatever it is, just give a number, and then whatever it is. Good information. 17 things you need to do this spring to take care of your home. Like, you can just throw them off the top of your head, to keep them coming back to your website. When you're collecting online leads, there's something about forced registration. What forced registration is something that makes them give you some information in exchange for the valuable information that you're giving them. For example, on my Facebook ad for a home, when they click on my Facebook ad, Facebook asks them for their name, email address, and phone number, and then it goes to my landing page. So I'm collecting that information. They have 2 types of forced registration. These are just kind of general terms. Skinny bait, no registration required. So click here and get whatever information. If you're just giving a link and it's on your website, they don't have to register. Or registration required. The real advantage to registration required is then you've got their contact info. So if somebody called you from an open house sign, you'd have their phone number because they just called you. And probably when you answered the phone, you would ask them what their name is, so you know their name. So I've got their name and phone number at least. With internet leads, unless you have that forced registration, that's not going to happen. They're just coming to your website. You have no idea who they are. So it's, you might think about adding that. It's going to happen automatically with some things that you do, like Facebook ads, where it automatically includes that. Now, lots of people are going to give you fake information. It happens all the time to me. They either put in, obviously fake email, or sometimes somebody else's email, and then that person's mad at me, or whatever it is. They will be fake ones, but you'll have enough of them that it'll work out. Minimum name and email, optional phone, location, blah 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 blah. Personally, I feel like people don't want to give you a whole bunch of info when they don't know you yet, and so I sort of personally do the bare minimum at the beginning. But that's just my preference. I think if it were some place where people already knew me or knew anything about me, I would probably feel differently about it. But just the general advertisement to the public, people don't like to give you that kind of information. So what I personally have been doing is just name, email, phone number, and that's it. You can have different ways that you have that captured. There are lots of services out there that you can pay for. If you happen to be using command for capturing, then you're going to get a notification in command. You'll get a text and you'll get an email notifying you that that lead has been captured. And the reason that that's so important is that we want to be really fast when we are when we're working with leads. So you want to be as quick as possible to get it. So is anybody already doing something with any kind of advertising where you're capturing leads? I know George just started, so I know he's not. Are you doing anything, Brianna? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I have smart plans set up.
Good. Yes.
Like not just list property.
Yes. Yeah. How's it been working for you?
It's been pretty well.
Yeah.
So there are some leads, like you said, that it's like they like the property, but they might already working with an agent.
Yes.
Or they just like they just want to see what.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
You know, aren't ready to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you do with the ones that aren't ready to buy yet?
I stick them in a nurture system.
Good.
So that I don't have to,
Yeah.
like, yeah, just stick my nurture system until
Yeah.
they are ready to buy.
Yeah.
Or someone I have like, I have to talk to my significant other about it. And then I was like, okay, like I'll try to follow up with them regularly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
So they decide whether or not they can afford it.
That's the way to do it. You can, I have one of my smart plans is call them every 6 months, and it's only one step that has a 6-month delay in it. So every six months, it'll ping me to contact them. I have a call every 3 months one, every 3 months, just to check in if they're not ready yet. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Someone asked in the chat, can you please share your Facebook ads?
I am using the classroom computer, and would you give that person my phone number? Please just say it out loud. It's 410-788-2209. I'd be happy to share my Facebook ads. I'm just not prepared to do it right now using the classroom computer and all that, but I'd be happy to. Hopefully I'll be teaching a Facebook ads class soon. So when I do teach the Facebook ads class, what I do during that class is I show you my Facebook ads, and I come with a property that you can run a Facebook ad on. And if somebody wants to, I have a listing that's going to go live in about a week, and I'm happy for others to run Facebook ads using my listing. I'm going to be running Facebook ads on my own listing, but if somebody else also wants to, for the purpose of capturing leads, I'm very happy to share. Yeah.
I was always curious as to, if there's, people in different price ranges.
Yeah.
Does Facebook cover all of it? Like somebody that was listing a $5 million house.
Yeah.
Are people buying and selling in that price range through Facebook compared to somebody that might be a first-time buyer doing Craigslist?
You know what? I'm just wanting their data, right? So I don't care if my house. So here's what happens all the time to me. I run a Facebook ad. Okay, so I have a listing coming up next week in Parkville. When they see the Facebook ad, they don't know it's in Parkville. Okay, so it's just somebody who sees that type of house. Now, my listing is going to be $279, all right, for a little single family home. So the people who contact me will probably be looking for things that are lower than that and things that are higher than that. And they might want Parkville. They might want somewhere else. And it doesn't matter to me, because my conversation with them is going to be, oh, you don't want Parkville. Oh, Middle River's where you're looking? Okay, well, let's see what we have, So you're going to be able to immediately convert to whatever price range, or, you know what I mean?
I was always curious as to.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't matter. That's a good question, though.
They used to have where you could separate out people that are living in a specific price range, but then I guess they got hit with some ethics violation things, and so now it's just broad based. Any housing ads, it has to just be that.
Yeah, there's a lot of housing rules. Yeah, but like really, doesn't matter, you know? I get a lot of people who are looking for a rental also, who aren't actually interested in buying, but then when I reach out to them, no, I was trying to rent. So I have a smart plan that is like a renter conversion smart plan. So I'm gonna keep in touch with them, because maybe, you know, even though they're renting now, that doesn't mean they're gonna wanna rent forever, you know? So, yeah. It's all
Because,
good.
like before, it's kind of like, you know, we would market with postcards.
Yes.
And others, we would do a letter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wasn't sure. If it was
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
that same thing with the Facebook or, you know, online presence.
Yeah.
So,
It's so broad, and that's kind of, you know, like you get so many contacts and you're really trying to whittle it down, you know, until you're communicating with people who actually want to buy or sell. Not that I'll keep communicating with the people, you know, who may not, if they'll let me. I don't archive somebody and take it off my database unless they tell me to. So if somebody, you know, wants me to stop calling them, I'm not going to keep calling them. You know, and if they can request to be removed from emails and request to be removed from texts. So I have some people who've requested both of those things, then I don't keep doing it, obviously. But if they just say, oh, I'm not really interested in buying right now, I'm going to keep communicating to them. It'll just be different messages and at a different pace. You know, and just see what happens. Because really, I've seen people come out of the blue. I don't know if you had come in the room yet, George, but I give this example, but like last week, I called somebody just as a follow-up call, and it had been 14 months since she had clicked my Facebook ad. 14 months. And that entire time, I'd never spoken to her. She had never answered the phone when I called, except for once when she hung up on me. And every other time, she just let it go to voicemail. She didn't respond to any of my texts or emails, nothing. And then out of the blue, I'm having a half-hour conversation with her, and she's like ready to buy. So, you know, just let command keep doing it for you. You know, and eventually some of them, a percentage of them, you might be able to get as.
when you communicate with them, are you also saying, you know, if you're not ready to buy or sell this time, if you have a family friend, they might also do it.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you haven't gotten into smart plans yet, but I want to show you how to do it sometime because you're like, yeah, it's really good. Keys to connecting, respond as quickly as possible. So if somebody, I try to do my best to do that. It's just call as quick as I can. But because sometimes I'm not going to be able to call right away, my smart plans for my Facebook ads immediately send a text message to that person. So if I happen to be like right now, I'm in here. If somebody were to respond to my Facebook ad right now, I'm obviously not going to stop class and go call them, right? That would be bad. But they would get a text message from me immediately through command. And then it's going to remind me to call them. And then it's going to send them an email. So the smart plan is working for me to respond to them with a text. And then I'm going to also call them as quick as I can and try to provide real value right away. Speed counts. Some other keys to connecting, I'm just going to kind of throw in here. I feel like just for my follow-up calls, I reach people better in the afternoon. Like if I call around 4 or 5, they are much more likely to pick up the phone than if I call them at 10 in the morning, which is unfortunate because I prefer to call them at 10 in the morning, but that's not what works for them. So 4 or 5 o'clock works really well. Saturdays work really well for getting people to pick up the phone. So for those like the long-term follow-up people who I've never been able to talk to before, I try to do that to reach them. And again, I mentioned earlier that if you use the command app, it's going to be much quicker for you. It's much, much quicker. You don't have to wait for each lead to load in command. You just call. Just hit the button and you're dialing really fast. And that's the way to do it. I'll sit down, I'll say, okay, I'm going to call these long-term leads for like a half hour. You can make a lot of calls in a half hour with that. And reach some people, hopefully, if I'm doing it in the afternoon. Purpose of connecting. So I want to identify motivation and readiness. I told you already, I had this long-term follow-up plan. That plan is for people that I have not connected with yet. So once I've connected with them and I'm having a conversation, I remove them from that smart plan because it's no longer appropriate. It would be texting them things that don't make any sense since we're already having a conversation. So once I've identified the motivation and readiness, I might want a different smart plan, or maybe I'm just kind of, I might have on a smart plan to call them weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. I have all three of those smart plans also, because I'm going to do a lot of it, with phone calls. Or maybe I'm sending them listings, whatever it is. I'm always trying to set an appointment. So whether it's a buyer or seller, I want to get an appointment with them, because at that point, if it's a buyer and they actually take the time to come and meet with me, there's a pretty good chance I've got that, that I'm going to be able to have them as a client. I'm trying to build a relationship. I'm trying to get more buyers to pre-approval, right? So I'm taking all those steps to add value, show myself to be an expert, and connect with them on a personal level. I'm sure you've heard before the statistic from NAR about how many sellers work with the first person they talk to, right? It's like, I don't remember the number, 84%, something like that. So, with buyers also, the first person they talk to really has a much better chance of working with them than anybody else. So speed matters, it matters, the follow-up matters, and in all these connections, I'm trying to add value to them so that they'll connect with me. If I can get them to answer the phone and have a conversation, my chances are much higher, with these internet leads. Here's some suggestions here. Call back within 3 to 7 minutes. What a lot of people say to do is when you call and there's no answer, don't leave a voicemail the first time. Call back later, don't leave in the voicemail the second time. Wait till the third time to leave a voicemail. I don't always do that, but I have a lot of calls to make, but it's a really good suggestion if you're trying 3 times. A lot of times people will then finally pick up the phone, when you call them the third time.
Why would you?
Yeah. Because then you can't call them back again. Like if you've called and you leave a voicemail, it would seem like annoying to leave several voicemails in one day, right?
Versus if they see the same number, call them 2 or 3 times a day, they might answer.
Because
they think it's someone trying to reach them as something important.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. We don't have too many busy phones anymore, so usually it's a cell phone, so it doesn't get a busy signal, it just goes to voicemail, but that refers to a landline if it's busy, to call back again. Yeah, but I just, and again, I mentioned afternoons and Saturdays, it works way better for me. Try it yourself, see if that works. And I'm trying to keep conversation going. They say always answer questions with questions. I want to get that person talking. I want to find out more about them, find out more about what they're looking to do, whether they're, what they're trying to sell, how much they're trying to sell for their house, all that kind of information that And at the end, I'm trying to close your appointment. That's my goal at the end, is get an appointment with either the buyer or the seller. And then at that point, if you've got the appointment, you're really a lot of the way there. Okay. Outcome, you reach the person. And in that, if you got an email that has the the course materials for today, in that course materials, there are lots of scripts, some suggested scripts to use. And that's not a bad idea to kind of have ahead of time, know exactly what you want to say if you actually reach them. Thank them for visiting your website, introduce yourself, ask some questions about what what they're trying to do. It's funny, one thing I found that works for me, when I'm doing my long-term follow-up calls, instead of asking them about, like, are you still thinking about buying a home? Instead of starting with that, when I have a listing coming up, I call all these long-term buyers and say, I'm calling you because I have a listing coming up next week. And then, it more opens the conversation. And then they say, oh, well, where is it? Oh, it's in Parkville. Oh, I'm not really looking at Parkville. Okay, where are you looking? Then I can have a conversation. Whereas if I just called and said, are you still looking to buy a home? Then it's easy for them to say no and just hang up. But the way things are right now with so few listings, I immediately say, I have a listing coming up next week or in the next couple of weeks. So, this one's been getting worked on. So I've been able to use this for like a month now. I've been saying that, because that's going to be next week, I think. Yeah, but have your script ahead of time. Know what you're going to say when you call. And look through that PDF that you got in the email for some suggestions about what to say when you call. I'm going to try to ask questions. I'm going to try to draw them out, try to find out what their motivation is, what they're trying to do. And in the end, I'm trying to get an appointment. If I don't reach them, I'm going to leave a message. Like I said, you could do it on that third one. I still would figure out a script for what you're going to say for the message, so you're not stumbling around. There are some suggestions in that PDF about what you can say. Again, I'm still trying to give them some helpful information. So I try to leave a message. Like I said, I have a listing coming up. I just thought you might be interested in it. That might get a call back easier than I just want to find out if you're trying to sell home, because then that just seems like, me. I'm focused on me rather than here's a listing. You might want it. That's a good one, or it's worked. But maybe there's something else that you could offer. Maybe you're, there's some new, whatever it is about lending, I have some information to tell you. So whatever you're going to offer them, give them something that they can use. The series of scripted voicemail messages, I kind of do it with texts, I think, more than voicemail messages. I guess that's a personal preference, but I have a lot of smart plans that are really scripted, just kind of bringing them along the process about things that they could do. And then I also do emails. And if you're using command, you can do the plain emails, but I really like to do the designs. If you haven't played with it, do. They're easy to use and they look really nice. And there's a lot that are already made that are ready for you to copy. You don't have to start from scratch yourself. But again, I'm just, like I mentioned before, I'm going to keep trying to connect with them until I either connect with them or they tell me to stop. Tell me to stop, then I'll stop. But you just keep trying and don't give up, because that type of lead, the whole mindset that we talked about at the beginning, that type of lead, especially for buyers, the first time they reach out to you on the internet, they're very far away from actually buying at that point. And so it just might take a long time, because they're doing so much internet searching in the forefront, and you might be reaching them very early in the process. You just can't give up. You may have anything to say about how they're connecting with leads, like how quickly or how often or anything like that. Okay. Purpose of cultivating: to provide continuous value. There's a lender that does this really well for me. There's a lender who sends me an email every week and has really good information about what's going on with loans. And, like I've started referring some buyers to her because I just think it's so useful. And I've seen people react to me like this. When I'm providing information, I have a lot of investors that I work with, and I have regular investor emails where I'm looking through the available listings, and I'll send out an email that has some investor type properties that they might be interested in. So it doesn't take me a tremendous amount of time to just do this email, and then I send it out to all of my investor type buyers. But I'm adding value to it, and a lot of them are just calling me about other properties now. So they'll call and want to see something that wasn't even one that I listed, or I have an appointment after this to go look at a property that an investor wants to sell. And it can come from that kind of thing. It's just the continuous being that person who's always sending them email about what the investor properties are. Then you become the expert on that because you've been offering so much information. And it does, the cementing relationship, that's exactly what happens, is that because they've been seeing me, my smiling face in their email over and over and over, at that point they feel like they know me a little bit, and they, I've added some value to them, and then I'm top of mind. And again, I'm trying to convert it to an appointment. So I know, Brianna, you're using smart plans. George is new, so he hasn't used smart plans yet, but he will soon. Anything else anybody has about how they are cultivating leads to add there? Did you want to say something?
So I offer to do like a one-on-one consultation.
Yeah.
Or just give them information.
Yeah.
Of the home buying process. So you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna buy next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, how about we just set up this consultation?
Yes.
And kind of go over what it looks like.
Yeah.
So you know what to expect.
Yes. Oh, that's great. That's great. I did that with Zoom during COVID. I scheduled a couple times. I just scheduled like I forget what I called it. Basically, it was here's the home buying process. And I invited every single buyer that I had ever run into from any lead source to attend this Zoom, thing. And you'd get 4 people there or something like that. It wasn't a lot, but still, it adds a lot of value.
Right. And they always, when they get ready, you're the first person.
They're doing everything
Like
right.
they'll even be updating me on things.
Yeah.
Like if you look at hey, so I did this.
Right.
I did this for my credit score went up.
Yay!
So, okay, great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, they're going to be the person you call when they're ready. Absolutely. All right. So again, we're going to keep asking for an appointment again, because if I can meet with them, just like you just said, Brianna, if you can meet with them, you're golden. That's really, then you're in there. Then you've got it. And explain the purpose of the appointment. So if it's a buyer, just like Brianna just said, the purpose of my first appointment is to go over the home buying process. Maybe it's for me to find out exactly what you're looking for. I want to know, what type of home you want, what areas, we want to look at some houses online together so I have a good idea of what you want. Or whatever it happens to be. If it's a seller, maybe the purpose of the appointment is, I know you're not ready to sell yet, but how about if I just come over, I'll take a look at your house, and then let's talk about what things might bring you, the most bang for your buck if you needed to fix 2 or 3 things, what those 2 or 3 things would be, or that kind of thing. Or why don't I come over? I know you're not ready to sell yet, but how about if let me just give you just a quick home evaluation, give you an idea of what it might sell for if we listed it. So, I would get the appointment, even if I know they're not ready to sell yet, at least just like Brianna just said, then I'm in, then they're the one I'm going to call, they're going to call me. Come from contribution, that's it. We've added value, we've given them something useful, and then we're going to be the ones they call. And we want to know our numbers. I told you my numbers at the beginning of this is what that looks like for me. It's really good to know your numbers of what it looks like for you for each of your lead sources. So I would talk about Facebook ads, but are there other things that, I advertise on Nextdoor? What's that look like for me? I need to know my numbers on any type of marketing I'm doing so that I know if my time and my money is well spent. Okay, so here's the bottom line. We need to understand the needs of buyers and sellers and make offers that generate immediate response. So we want to have value that they can see right away, that immediately they're getting response so that they agree to give us their contact info, right? I want to get their contact info. I give them something of value, then I'll be able to do the forced registration to ask for that. And then I'm going to focus my time and attention on the people who are highly motivated. So my general leads, everybody that just comes in, I'm not spending my own personal time and attention on that yet. I'm going to use command. I'm going to leverage command to text and email for me until I figure out who are the people who are actually really motivated. And then those are the people that I'm going to spend a lot of time on. Okay, so leverage what you have already to take that for you. A lead is someone who is ready, willing, and able to buy or sell real estate now. So we want to that's who the most of the time gets spent on, and we're trying to get everybody else to that point. There's no such thing as a bad inquiry, just inquiries that aren't followed up. It's really easy to drop the ball on that, you know, so automate as much as you can so that you don't drop the ball. You know, I did when I first started doing Facebook ads. There were some I'm looking through as I'm going through my old ones. I'm like, wow, I really didn't call that person. You know, like some now I'm noticing stuff, mistakes that I made a year ago. You know, that I could have followed up on better. And don't capture a bunch of inquiries if you can't address them. So be prepared to do whatever it is to keep following up. Because it's so important that you follow up fast. That if you're not going to be able to, don't do it. Like, but if I'm going out of town, I do not run a Facebook ad. There's no point in me running a Facebook ad and then not calling any of those people. So if I'm on vacation and I don't want to make phone calls on vacation, which I just don't run the Facebook ad yet. You know, I go away for the weekend, I'll still not have a Facebook ad running right while I'm gone. It just doesn't make sense to do it. You're just kind of wasting that lead. And then the biggest thing is to automate everything so that you are really focusing on those people who are ready to buy or sell rather than the people who are 14 months out or may never get to that point. We'll automate our communication with those until they're really ready to buy or sell. All right. Okay. All right. We're running out of time here at the end here. Any final thoughts? Is anything anybody wants to say?
Sandy, like when you're doing your Facebook ads, have you noticed that there are certain types of pictures that might catch attention or bring in more leads than others?
Oh,
Like
that's a good question.
a picture of like the front of the house versus the inside of the house, like.
Yeah. So, okay. So the question, in case it didn't come through on Zoom, is: are there certain types of pictures that work well? First of all, definitely the really pretty house works. So some of my listings are just not that. I have a lot of investors. And so I have done some Facebook ads on some of my more investor type properties that aren't as pretty, and they don't generate as well. A really pretty house does. And I use a carousel that'll show 4 or 5 pictures on mine. But the kitchen photos really attract. Or if the outside is really, you know, you got a really pretty outside of the house, that it really makes a huge difference. When I look at my reporting, you can see for each one how many leads you got, how many clicks you got. It's so much higher with a really pretty house with a nice kitchen with the stainless appliances. You know, if we've got the professional photos and everything, then I'm going to get a lot of leads on that. It makes a big difference. Yeah. Landscaping, really nice landscaping. Yeah.
One of my clients actually came out to me, and I was always now. They were like, because they were investors, they're like, whenever we sell, I just noticed they put a really nice wreath on the door.
Yes.
And like some planters on the front door.
Yeah.
It just attracts so much more attention.
Yeah.
You know.
I know. And it's so inexpensive.
Right, exactly.
Little wreath, couple plants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes people feel like they're
Makes-
walking to something nice.
Exactly. It sets the expectation. Yeah. No, it makes a really big difference. All right. My phone number is 410-788-2209. Feel free to call me. I use a lot of Facebook ads. That's a particular area that I'm into, and I'm really into the smart plans. So if you would like help on that, I'm happy to help. And I do every once in a while teach the class here for Facebook ads, and what we would do in that class is if you do everything as we're doing it, you're going to leave the class, ready, just like run a Facebook ad and do it. I spend $30 on each Facebook ad, so it's not $1 million, it's $30. And you can spend you can spend more or less than that if you'd like to, but that's what I do. Anyway, I hope you'll try this and just start doing it and really commit to an automated follow-up of your internet leads so that you can get them converted into clients, because it'll pay off, All right, well, call me if you need me, and thank you. All right. Hey, bye everybody on Zoom.